History rarely changes all at once. It shifts slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, until one single moment forces the world into a new direction. The early 20th century was one of those fragile moments in time. On the surface, the world seemed powerful, modern, and unstoppable. Beneath that surface, however, tension was building like pressure inside a sealed chamber. Massive empires dominated continents. Industrial factories roared day and night. Railways connected distant cities. New inventions were transforming communication, travel, and warfare. Confidence filled the air. Many believed civilization had reached its peak. But ambition was everywhere. Nations competed for colonies, resources, and influence. Political leaders spoke of honor and national pride. Military budgets grew larger each year. Naval fleets expanded. New weapons were developed at terrifying speed: machine guns, heavy artillery, submarines. Every power claimed it was preparing for defense, yet each one was quietly preparing for confrontation. Alliances were signed behind closed doors. Agreements promised protection, but they also created a dangerous web of obligation. If one nation entered war, others were bound to follow. It was a system designed for stability, yet it was built on mistrust. At the same time, nationalist movements were rising within empires. Ethnic groups demanded independence. Protest movements spread through cities. Some regions simmered with resentment toward distant rulers. The political atmosphere was electric. Then came the assassination. It was sudden, public, violent. Within seconds, a life ended, and the fragile balance of Europe was shattered. What could have remained a regional crisis quickly escalated. Leaders reacted with anger instead of caution. Ultimatums were delivered with impossible demands. Deadlines were short. Pride left little room for compromise. Mobilization orders were signed, and once armies began moving, there was no turning back. Within weeks, multiple nations were at war. What began as a single act of violence triggered a chain reaction across continents. The conflict expanded beyond Europe, drawing in colonies and distant territories. It became the first truly global war. The scale of destruction shocked humanity. Soldiers fought in trenches filled with mud and despair. Entire landscapes were scarred by artillery bombardment. Chemical weapons introduced new horrors. Civilians faced famine, displacement, and economic collapse. An entire generation experienced trauma that would echo for decades. But the most dramatic transformation came after the war ended. Empires that had ruled for centuries crumbled. Thrones fell. Monarchies disappeared. Vast territories were divided into new states, many with borders drawn by outsiders unfamiliar with local realities. Political instability spread. Some new nations struggled to survive. Others became battlegrounds for competing ideologies. The defeated powers faced harsh economic penalties. Inflation spiraled out of control. Poverty deepened. Public anger intensified. Political extremism found fertile ground among populations desperate for change. Meanwhile, older European powers emerged weakened, economically exhausted, and socially fractured. The global center of power began shifting. Rising nations outside Europe gained influence in finance, industry, and military strength. A new world order was quietly forming. Yet, peace was fragile. Unresolved grievances, economic punishment, and political instability planted the seeds for another devastating conflict. Within 2 decades, the world plunged into a second global war, even more destructive than the first. Entire cities were annihilated. New technologies introduced unprecedented levels of destruction. Humanity witnessed the terrifying power of atomic weapons. When the Second War finally ended, the old world was gone. 2 superpowers stood at the top of a divided globe. Their rivalry reshaped international politics for nearly half a century. Nuclear arsenals threatened human survival. Proxy wars erupted in distant lands. Intelligence operations unfolded in secrecy. The race for technological dominance extended into space itself. All of these transformations, the collapse of empires, the rise of superpowers, the Cold War tensions, can be traced back to that one assassination. It is astonishing how a single event can expose hidden weaknesses in global systems. The assassination did not create rivalry, nationalism, or ambition. Those forces already existed. What it did was ignite them all at once. It revealed how interconnected the modern world had become. It showed how quickly alliances could transform a local tragedy into worldwide catastrophe. It proved that global stability is often an illusion, dependent on restraint, diplomacy, and wise leadership. The assassination did more than take a life. It ended an era of imperial dominance. It reshaped borders across continents. It altered economic systems. It fueled ideological revolutions. It shifted the balance of global power permanently. Even today, many modern conflicts, political boundaries, and international tensions can trace their origins back to the aftermath of that single moment. History is not always shaped by long speeches or grand victories. Sometimes it turns on a split second, a decision, a shot, an irreversible act. One assassination, a global war, the fall of empires, the rise of superpowers, and a world forever changed.